What's going on, horror fans? It's Foos here, and it is Scream 7 Eve. That's right. Tomorrow is the release of Scream 7. It's practically here. So we're going to go ahead and finish up our look back series here on the rest of the franchise with our take two on Scream 6. And what better way to dive into it than a couple thoughts I have on the opening scene here. And just a couple of, little questions or little logic points here that jump out at me after seeing this movie enough times. First being our guy Jason, who's portraying Ghostface early on here in this scene, who lures this film professor out into an alleyway where he attacks her. Then, after attacking her and killing her in this alleyway, he proceeds to unmask himself, put all this stuff in a bag, and go walk out of the alley into the normal flow of people walking through the city. The thing that's questionable about that is, in this day and age, especially in a city like New York, there's cameras everywhere. The odds that this man is going to commit this murder in this alley, that is inevitably her body's going to be found, police are going to be involved in investigating to some extent here. The first thing they're going to do is pull cameras to see if they can identify any suspects going in or out of that area. And as soon as they see him, they're going to obviously have some follow up actions. They're going to want to ask him some questions. The odds that he was getting away with this in any sort of reality, not happening, right? So that jumps out at me. And then another thing about Jason and his situation, after he does what we're talking about here, he ends up going back to his apartment where when he comes in, he puts his stuff away and he's about to go and get something out of his refrigerator, which we ultimately find out his buddy Greg is just hanging out chopped up at the moment. Right before he can open this refrigerator door, though, his phone rings with the Ghostface call. He proceeds to pick it up and then never goes back to the refrigerator, conveniently enough here. What is Ghostface plan if, maybe just maybe our guy Jason is actually capable of multitasking and went back to going to the refrigerator whilst on the phone? I don't know about you guys out there, but I'm able to talk on the phone in some capacity and still have a hand loose to open a refrigerator door and, grab a soda out or, whatever. But apparently Jason was just moving on from that conveniently enough for Ghostface, right? I mean, if he just happens to pick the phone up, starts talking and everything, and then still pops the fridge open to grab his juicy juice, what's Ghostface going to do? Just pop out, drop the phone, and just start stabbing him? Is that the plan from there? These are just some questions I have. And maybe I'm just being hypercritical of this opening scene at this point because of recently seeing some interesting case attempting to be made about this opening being better than the original movie's opening. And opinions are opinions. I'm never not going to tell you to have your own, and you can't be wrong. It's your opinion, all that good stuff. I agree with it, but maybe I'm just in my own mind being extra critical of this one now, just to prove my own points. But no, I kid. But yeah, those are two things that definitely jumped out though last time watching this one. Another thing that I know I've said this before, but one of the biggest things about this movie that's negative is that it just plays it way too safe with no stakes in it as far as anybody of consequence dying in this movie. We don't kill off anybody that you're gonna really care to remember. And even if you don't necessarily agree with how I said this would have been a good moment for possibly Gail to go, I get, people just want to see her continue on. That character has a massive amount of weight in the story and in this franchise. I get all that. I see it. But even if you don't agree with that, there's no way you can't justify that somehow Chad, who was stabbed like 20 damn times or whatever the hell it was, or even Mindy when she stabbed on the subway, or possibly even Kirby, couldn't have been casualties in this one that could have added a little extra weight to this movie in some capacity. But literally everyone survives in a movie where fucking Detective Bailey tells us everybody's got to die. No, no one died. But this movie's not all bad though. I mean, if it weren't for the Ghostface reveal and everything that comes after that, and the way our third act evolves, in my opinion, then this movie would have been held in much higher regard for me. But some of the things that still stand out in the positive. still a big fan of the apartment attack scene and ultimately that whole ladder sequence that we get leading to Annika's fall and you know dumpster impact and all that good stuff. Big fan of that whole scene. I think that's a really good moment in this movie, as well as the bodega scene that everybody seems to be pretty divisive on. Sorry, Matthew Lillard. I still think the violence and the shotgun is pretty cool for what it is in this movie. But those scenes definitely stand out still in a positive, as well as the subway scene. Again, that one could have been more impactful though had they decided to say, "Hey, this is going to be where we kill Mindy off." But or if even the preview wouldn't have just given away most of that scene before you got to actually see it. But hey, either way. But unfortunately, those negatives stand out still too. And Detective Bailey and the Ghostface reveal at the end of this one, and then just some of the nonsense that goes into the motives and everything after that. I've said my piece enough on the third act of Scream Six. I won't beat it to death again here, but it does so much harm to this movie overall for me personally. And it's the difference between it being in my top few sequels versus being the bottom of my overall list where it currently finds itself. But you know, one thing at the end though that I do still appreciate about it is the finality and kind of the happy moment that we get at the end to give us some peace with the characters of Sam and Tara. I don't know if they knew at the time that it was only two films. They weren't sure about a third film. I have no idea how that timeline works out here, but it does seem as if it was written where, hey, let's write it like this is the end. If we end up with a third film with these characters, then we have ways we can handle it, whatever. But you get some finality and some peace at the end of this, and being on the doorstep of Scream 7, just feel necessary to point that out. But that's really all I got here on Scream 6. That's it for the wrap ups. It's full steam ahead to Scream 7 at this point. Can't wait to check it out. Can't wait to come on here and chat with y'all about it. But in the meantime, hit subscribe, share some videos with some friends on the channel, share the channel with some friends, whatever you can do to help it out. It's greatly appreciated. We'll see you on the next one.